Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you may be watching us. I'm going to say this right from the jump as I'm recording this here today. We've got thunderstorms going through the area, so if you hear a clap of thunder or the lights suddenly go off because we've lost power, you know why. We're going to jump back into Genesis. I know it's been a few weeks since we last posted a video. It's been a really hectic few weeks here at the church with Easter and then Mother's Day. We had a funeral, got a wedding, all kinds of stuff. It happens, right? But I'm happy to be back with you guys today. Last time that we met, and I'd encourage you to go back, watch the series to this point, as well as the Revelation series if you'd like to. Um, we finished with Sodom and Gomorrah and with the daughters of Lot and all that happened there. And so we're going to transition ourselves now in chapter 20 back to Abraham as the key figure that we're talking about in the story. We're going to look at chapter 20 today. It's not a super long chapter, and it repeats some of what we've actually already seen. And so we're going to see that, not some of what we've seen, but a repeat occurrence, I should say, of what we've seen. So let's jump into it. Chapter 20, starting with verse 1. Now Abraham journeyed from there toward the land of the Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur. Then he sojourned in Gerar. Abraham said of Sarah his wife, "She is my sister." So Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream of the night and said to him, "Behold, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is married." Now Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, "Lord, will you slay a nation, even though blameless? Did he not himself say to me, 'She is my sister'? And she herself said, 'He is my brother'? In the integrity of my heart, in the innocence of my hands, I have done this." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know that in the integrity of your heart you have done this, and I also kept you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not let you touch her. Now therefore restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not restore her, know that shall surely die, you and all who are yours." So Abimelech arose early in the morning and called all of his servants and told all these things in their hearing. And the men were greatly frightened. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? And how have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me things that ought not to be done." And Abimelech said to Abraham, "What have you encountered, that you have done this thing?" Abraham said, "Because I thought, surely there is no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she actually is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came about when God caused me to wander from my father's house that I said to her, 'This is the kindness which you will show to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother.'" Abimelech then took sheep and oxen and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham and restored his wife, Sarah, to him. Abimelech said, "Behold, my land is before you. Settle wherever you please." To Sarah he said, "Behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, it is your vindication before all who are with you, and before all the men who you are cleared." Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his maid, so that they bore children. For the Lord had closed fast all the wombs of the household of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Now, if this sounds very similar to you, it's because Abraham did this once before in Egypt. So this is in a different area of the world, actually near Egypt. But Abraham has not learned his lesson. Let's talk about it. So, for an unknown reason, right? We don't know why. Abraham decides to travel to Gerar, uh, the capital city of the Philistines at that time, right? You may have heard of the Philistines. They're a very large group of people at that time. And this is their capital city. It's near the Egyptian border and was an extremely prosperous city. And that may be why Abraham went there. He may have had business. Remember, Abraham is an extremely profitable chieftain at the time. And Gerar, or however you might want to say it, is Gerar, is essentially a port city, if you will. Not port as on a body of water, but a city where trade caravans would come through. And so there would be massive amounts of wealth. Business would be done there and stuff like that. And Abraham is the leader of an area, and so it makes sense that he would go there for those reasons. And the old fears that Abraham and Sarah have when they visited Egypt returned, right? And they fail the test a second time in the exact same way. Now, I do want to point out, we oftentimes will be like, oh, I can't believe they failed it again. When we fail tests again and again and again and again and again, thankfully God is very gracious and loving and merciful to us, right? And continues to teach us. They're going to fail it again. Sarah is roughly 90 at this point. Um, and we're unsure of the reason why, but there's most likely two that they would want to do this. First off is, remember, um, people lived much longer back then. And so 90 would have been closer to your like 50, 60, that age. And so it's very possible that she still looks incredibly attractive. And therefore, the king would want her. And frankly, it also might be for political gain. Oh, this is the sister of one of the powerful chieftains of the area. Let me marry her into the family, and now I've joined these two. Right? We see it all the time. Throughout history, political marriages where the two powers that be will marry each other, or their children will marry each other. Right? To create a powerful political marriage alliance between the two nations, two groups of people. It makes sense. So they make this mistake, but regardless of it, God is not going to allow the promise he makes to Abraham and Sarah to be broken, because the promise he made was not dependent as much upon them. It was dependent, upon him. There are promises that are made that are dependent upon us, right? You do this, God does this. But this was not one of them, that the promised seed was going to come from Abraham and Sarah, and that it would be her firstborn and such, is not a promise based on Abraham and Sarah. It's a promise based upon God. Remember back chapters ago where Abraham is the one who falls asleep and God passes through the split animals himself, showing that it's not a covenant based upon Abraham, it's a covenant based upon God. And so God is not going to let um his will not happen. And so he takes matters into his own hands, as he quite often, frankly, does. God strikes Abimelech with a lethal infirmity. We know that from verse 17. And it's to prevent Abimelech from from having sex with Sarah, right? The Bible likes to use a bunch of other language. We'll call it like it is, in order to stop him from consummating the marriage, right? From having sex with Sarah. And we know that from verse 6, that God causes this to happen. And God then appears in a dream to give a dire warning to Abimelech. If he touches or harms them in any way, the entire nation's going to die. This isn't a hug or a handshake or something like that, right? If he harms them or if she is touched sexually, he will destroy the entire nation. Um, and so again, we see the ruler then gives a stinging rebuke, just the same as what happened in Egypt. And Abraham's going to accept Abimelech's gifts, most likely because it would have been even worse if he hadn't. He would have offended Abimelech further if he doesn't accept these gifts that are being given. This is also the first use of the word prophet that we see in the Bible, right? Now, prophets are vastly misunderstood, and mainly because in our present day and age and throughout some of history, in fact, quite a lot of history actually, prophets were about foretelling, right? You read about it in ancient religions, where, especially in the Greco-Roman religions, right, where we must seek the prophets, we must seek the priestesses, and such, right? They were about foretelling, telling the future. But God's idea of a prophet is forth telling, Forth, about proclaiming truth. Now, yes, some of the prophets would tell the future at points, right? Daniel and Isaiah being some of the most famous in scripture that are charged with that. But even in that, they are told to tell the truth, to proclaim forth the truth, and to pray over people and nations, to be spiritual leaders. And in this being the first time we see the word, we see that that is the primary uh, practice, the primary use for a prophet. Abraham's going to be a prophet, meaning he's going to, and it says it, he will pray over you and heal you. Prophets aren't as much about foretelling as they are about forthtelling. And something that we need to look at briefly is that Abraham, I'm trying to find the right verse. Um, Verse 12. Besides, she actually is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. He tries to rationalize it away. He's like, well, I didn't actually lie. I just didn't tell you all of the truth. I'm here to tell you that to intentionally deceive, even if you're not actively lying, the sentence that you're saying is not actively untrue. To purposefully deceive is to lie. Now, or is wrong. It's a sin. Now, I'm not saying that you should just tell everybody all information all the time, right? As parents, you know that you don't tell your kids everything. One, they don't need to know everything. Two, they shouldn't know everything. There are things that they are not equipped yet to handle. There are things that they should not walk through yet, right? As the pastor, I don't tell everybody everything that's going on, right? Whether it's because I'm helping somebody with counseling or whether because, like, they don't really need to know about, well, I cleaned the toilets today, right? I could tell them if they ask, but not telling them is not a sin. Intentionally misleading somebody is a sin. Intentionally, even if what you are saying is true, right? Sarah is technically his sister, but by leaving out that she is his wife, he is intentionally misleading Abimelech here and then the king of Egypt years prior into believing that she is no more than his sister and therefore he can take her. It's still wrong. And oftentimes we as believers try to rationalize our sin away. Well, is it really wrong if X? Is it really wrong if Y? I didn't tell a lie. I just didn't necessarily tell the whole truth, etc., etc. God doesn't play that way with sin. Sin is sin is sin is sin. And it doesn't matter what you think, it matters what God says. And so that's what we see here. And lastly, it would seem that well, before I go into that, let me finish it with this. Be very wary of how you talk and what you say and your thought processes. If you're not telling somebody information because you are purposefully trying to mislead, you're in the wrong. Even if what you say is technically true, you're still in the wrong. Lastly, then, we do see that it would appear Abraham finally learns his lesson, as we never again read of him questioning God or his guardianship. We will see others do so, but Abraham does not. There are some hard lessons learned. It's cost Abraham dearly, family wise, politically, etc. Um, we're not done with Abraham yet. Obviously, Isaac's not born and such. Um, but take some learning from Abraham to just walk and follow after what God has said to do. It's an important distinction that we find. Don't try to toe the line. Instead, just don't go near it, right? Join us next time. We're going to start with chapter 21 here next time, and we're going to get into Isaac and such like that then. God bless. I will see you all next time around.